For those that have been listening to the Curious Builder podcast, you know how much I love the Contractor Coalition Summit. It's been the single biggest force multiplier in my business over 21 years. We're excited to announce again that we're coming back to Chicago, November 7th through the 10th. All the details can be found at the contractorcoalitionsummit.com. And under the promo code for a $2,500 discount, type in Curious Builder. We'll see you in Chicago.
I've switched my mentality and my focus on what's more important to me. And I basically switched the roles of work and personal life to put more emphasis on maintaining a better personal life and just using my business as a tool to do that rather than my business being every ounce of my self-worth.
Welcome to the Curious Builder podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today is Thursday, or Tuesday, the day we're recording this. And we've got our Thursday series, Losers Are Winners. And so I thought of the biggest loser I could con into coming onto this podcast. He was not available. So instead, I get TRG's own Tyler Grace, co-captain of the Contractor Coalition, co-host of The Modern Craftsman, and stud dad to two awesome girls, the best husband on the planet. What's up, T?
Keep going. Keep going. Good. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, to be honest. So we're just going to roll with it.
We're just going to roll with it. So we've been doing the series for a couple months. Basically, I interview people for 20 minutes on Thursdays. And, you know, we learn way more from losing than we do from succeeding. And so I was just thinking professionally or personally, whatever you want to share, basically, how have you sucked? How have you made, what are some big mistakes you've made that, you know, you've been in your career now for multi-decades. You look back and you're like, wow, that was, at the time, it was really tough to have that happen. But now I'm so thankful it did because I've learned so much. Or, you know, and you talk about it all the time on your podcast too. But just, I don't know, I feel like in some ways it's hard to pick out which one because there's so many. But there's a lot of them, like for myself, I could think of. But
life or business?
Honestly, both. It doesn't really matter because I think in some ways they're, especially small entrepreneurs like us, like your life and your business are sort of intertwined, sometimes too much so. And a lot of our personal failures are a result of, you know, overcommitting into our business. A lot of times our failures are we don't manage something in one and it affects the other.
Yeah.
So honestly, go wherever you want.
Come on. Who? I thought I was a guest on this podcast. Let's go. One thing that comes to mind is allowing my work or my passion to be the sole driver for all of my self-worth. Everything that I did, I had work and I had nothing else. I didn't have hobbies. I put all of my stake and my self-worth in my client experience, pleasing my customers. And for a long time, it made for a really viable, not from a profitability perspective, but like I had a ton of work. I had a ton of jobs coming in. The leads were flowing. I had great customer experience, but I was just burning myself out. I wasn't focusing on the right things. And I just kept saying that I'm doing what I love. I'm doing the right thing. I'm treating my customers. This will all pay off down the road. So that's definitely a huge thing for me, is understanding that there needs to be a line drawn in the sand. You have to have some sort of separation between what makes you happy, your hobbies, your passion, and business. Like they can overlap some, but you can't allow all of your self-worth to be dictated by what you do for a living. To me, that just wound up being a dead end road because I gave everything to my clients and I didn't take care of myself. I didn't take care of my family. I put everyone else first. So that's one very broad stroke of what I feel that I screwed up early on in business.
How long did it take for you to realize, or what was the aha moment, or was there never an aha moment? It took a lot of time. Or how did you pull out of that nosedive, if you will? Because I agree with everything you said.
I burnt myself out, and I've spoken about this actually a handful of times recently, but I wound up just working myself to the point where I ended up in the hospital twice because I just wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating properly. I was basically, in short, I ran down all of my body's natural adrenaline to the point where I had a small allergic reaction to something. and my body couldn't fight it. And I went into anaphylaxis twice, and we didn't know why. And it was stress induced anaphylaxis, is what we found out about it. I don't have allergies of that type. So I ended up basically throat closing up, getting full body hives, getting rushed to the emergency room twice just because I was so run down and I wasn't prioritizing health, sleep, my own personal life, family, anything like that. So I just realized that all of my fulfillment in life, all of my worth, I pawned off on I'm doing this for my family. This is for the bigger picture. And I realized in hindsight that it was just what I wanted. It was all ego driven. My kids and my wife, other than providing financially, contributing financially to the household, it was what I wanted to do. If they would have had the decision, they would have chose otherwise. So I realized that I was being very selfish and I needed to change. When I did that, I started digging into business more and creating that separation between my wants, my needs, my ego, and business, and still trying to execute a really high level and have great customer service. But if a client's not happy or I can't meet a client's needs or program, I'm not going to lose sleep over it anymore. I'm not going to say yes to everyone, and I'm going to understand that it's still going to be okay.
You literally worked yourself to death or on the brink of it. How, if you were to look back, how many years ago was this, do you think?
It was during COVID.
So if you were to look back now objectively, which you probably have better ability to do, what warning signs, where I'm going with this question is maybe a listener out there, it hasn't reached the bottom and can't relate to this, or they hear what you're saying, but they're like, well, that's not for me. What were some warning signs, or what were some red flags? What were things that either your spouse said or family or other people shared with you that you just weren't really in probably a mental place that you could even receive it, because because a lot of times, you ever do the thing where your wife says something like, oh, wow. And you're like, yeah, I've told you that like 10 times before. You just heard it this time. What were some warning signs?
I think I can get into a pretty relatively strong manic state when I get driven like that. I'm just so intense. So the signs were all there. I think the biggest thing for me and the others, who the heck has my phone on? That's a customer.
Is this your first time? Is this your first time on a podcast?
It's actually probably the first time that my phone rang on a podcast, because I don't
That's
even
amazing.
know. I don't even know how it turned on off of silent, but that's actually a client that I don't feel like talking to right now. Anyway, so the numbers basically with my business, and I think most people can probably relate when you're small, the numbers at the end of the year seemed fine. I just never was being realistic with myself when it came to how many hours I was committing to projects. So what it looked as if I was making at the end of the year, if it were a normal job and I was working 40, 45 hours a week, it would have been great. But I was working 80 hours a week. I was working more. So I think being realistic with yourself and understanding that you have to be able to capture your time as a small business, and that none of us are making that much money. We're not ripping people off. We don't all have Ferraris and multiple houses. We're just trying to get paid for our time. And I think that if I would have just realized what my time's worth, all aspects of the business, swinging a hammer, paperwork, back end, running and picking up materials, meeting with clients, just conceding time for free to please people, I think there was a lot of red flags for how much time I was putting into jobs that I just never was accounting for. And I assumed that was just the way the business had to be. And it wasn't until I got sick that I realized, hey, essentially everyone's getting paid for every hour that they work on my jobs but me. So I had to get rid of everyone, restructure, and start figuring out, basically relearning how to walk. How am I going to get back into business? How am I going to do these jobs where I'm not paying people to do the work and I actually can make money doing it? So once I got sick, there was a couple other things that happened personally at the same time where I just said, I'm going to start over from scratch. I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to track all my costs. I'm going to keep it super simple, and I'm going to make a decent living not working 80 hours a week. And that's been a huge change in my life, both personally and professionally. So the biggest thing to me would be get rid of your ego, be realistic with yourself about what you're making, and quit lying to yourself saying that, this is a stage I'm in. At some point, it'll be easier. I'm not going to work this hard. If you're working that hard right now, it's not going to change unless you make it change.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 1, where I interview the Pella Northland founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk all about their latest innovation with the Steady Set window. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive. If you're still chasing checks and juggling spreadsheets, it's time to upgrade. Adaptive is revolutionizing how builders get paid with AI-powered bill pay, automated draws, one-click payments, and built-in lien waivers. Faster payments, fewer headaches, and total visibility. Adaptive takes care of the back-end chaos so you can focus on what you do best, building. We've used Adaptive for 2.5 years and trust them to keep our projects moving and payments flowing. Learn more at adaptive.build and simplify the pay process today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 10 and episode 15. Do you think that the hard part is, put yourself back in that manic state is like a lot of us and a lot of entrepreneurs, regardless of what profession, they love what they do or they find enjoyment in it. And so it's hard to realize it's kind of like you're doing a nosedive in an airplane without an altimeter in the clouds. So you're like, oh, I love flying. And it's not till you hit the ground that you realize that you're going in the wrong direction. Because I think, sure, a lot of people feel stress and they feel the rat race. But there's a lot of times I bet you're chasing that dopamine hit. You're chasing that manic high. I mean, I know I'm sure a lot of that in my natural personality as well. And honestly, a lot of owners, whether it's ADHD or dopamine I'm not a physician, so I can't really diagnose all those things. But all I know is like, it's not hard to work hard because you enjoy it. How would, if you don't hit the end, like you hit the end, how does someone go about sort of bringing structure when they might enjoy it? Like, how do they know the cost when they haven't felt the cost?
But that's somewhat what I started the conversation with, that I think you need something to get into business because you love something is what we all do. And to me, oftentimes that's the wrong move, or I look back on it and it was the wrong move. Just because I enjoyed something, I probably shouldn't start a business because of it. Because you are going to overwork, you are going to concede a lot of time because you get that dopamine hit, because you like to push the boundaries, because you enjoy the stress. I think that you need to look at business from the perspective of profitability, how much time you're investing. If you were able to sell your business, would somebody invest in it? And that's not to say that you shouldn't enjoy what you do, but I think when we enter into business or we start a business because you say, I like building houses, or I like working with my hands, or I enjoy putting teams together, whatever that is, to me, that just becomes a crutch when you're not making money to say, well, I'm doing what I love. And I think it really can prolong a lot of the suffering, because you're willing to put up with it because, hey, this is my passion. And if it weren't your passion, you would just be like, no, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. This is dumb. I'm going to go do something else with my time. But being that you love it so much, you allow yourself to continue to spiral and work for free and not capture your costs. And I think it's foolish. In hindsight, I allowed what was my passion to negatively affect my business for 10 years.
I had someone on the podcast, Chris Montana. He actually, dude, nor he owned a distillery, but he had 2 strokes before he realized it. He had a stroke at like 26. He was running he was helping a presidential campaign in DC. And then the second one was when he started his distillery. but just the point, like literally you worked yourself sick.
Mm-hmm.
Chris had a stroke. And hearing these stories, as you've interviewed people or even seen friends in your own friend network, you've been through this, you've seen it. What are things that you do now to make sure that you sort of stay on the right side, that you don't slip back into the old mindset of Tyler? Is that not that hard anymore, or do you still have to sort of sometimes, for me it's like my spouse or my kids, or it's having other friends that are really close that you kind of have honest conversations with, or almost like ask them like, hey, could you give me some feedback, like how am I doing? How do you sort of regulate yourself now, 5 years after, let's say, this kind of health scare? I know you're way more aware of it now, so you're probably, it's not nearly as a danger, but I would imagine it's still probably in the back of your mind, or or is it not? It's a non-issue now.
I would say it's more of a non-issue. If at this point, I just don't work as much now. I found ways to make money that I don't need to put 80 hours a week into it. So what was happening before is I was exhausting budgets. There was no money left in the job. I was closing the job out. Everyone's gotten paid. There wasn't enough to close the job out. So I would stay late and I'd send everyone home and I'd work to try and close the job out. So I found ways to provide value for my clients where I'm not bending over backwards, conceding time and delivering you a masterpiece at the cost of a mid-level renovation. If somebody wants that, they have to understand the cost and the time associated with. And like a lot of that is just me. A lot of that was me wanting more for those jobs than my clients would have ever paid for had they understood the true cost implications of them. So I found a way to operate in life and business where I have other hobbies. I have other ways to get an adrenaline fix. I try and maintain a healthy lifestyle. I just try not to work late anymore, especially with the kids getting older. There's always something or a game or an athletic event. I want to be home for dinner. So I've just changed my lifestyle completely. I've changed my life to be the main focus and not my business. Before it was my life, my family, all was backseat to my business, and I basically just went 180 degrees from that, where I use my business to support the life that I need, but that's not my identity. That's not how I get all my fulfillment in life. That's, if something goes wrong at work, it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm not going to worry about who knows if this happened, if that happened, or what somebody's going to say. I've switched my mentality and my focus on what's more important to me. And I basically switched the roles of work and personal life to put more emphasis on maintaining a better personal life and just using my business as a tool to do that, rather than my business being every ounce of my self-worth.
I got nothing, buddy. That's a mic drop right there. That's very well said. I appreciate it. I know you've got to go to another meeting, so I think that's about that's about as succinct as someone could get. If you missed that, rewind 2 minutes and listen to that on repeat. It's very well said, buddy. For those that want to see Tyler in person, we still have some spots left for Contractor Coalition Summit. In Chicago. Hard sell.
That's coming up quick too. I was just looking at my calendar today and I was like, damn.
Yeah, I actually just I just got to book my flights in and out. So yeah, that's coming up in 36 days.
Very soon. I'm excited.
Me too. It'll be good times.
So you guys better make it there.
Oh, I'm there. Oh, you mean the audience?
Audience, not you. I know you're there. I don't have to sell it to you.
Wait, that might be a detriment. Be like, wait, Mark's coming. We're out. We definitely can't come.
Yeah. We have a surprise guest.
Yeah, surprise guest. Oops. Actually, you know what? We actually will do this hot take. We are, for the audience out there, we always thought, because obviously we're recording on a podcast and we do lots of this, but opening night, we're going to do an open mic. 8 minutes or less. You have to share your hardest story you've had in your career. We thought it'd be a really fun, ice-breaking moment. And I'm actually really excited for the hardest part will actually be not recording that, because I feel like there'll be such valuable stories. But if you are there, it is the only time you're going to hear some of these stories. So I think it's not really, I mean, it can be venting if people want, but a lot of it's just cathartic, just sharing like, hey, this is something that's really difficult. I feel like you and I have talked so much about all the conversations that happen in between at Contractor Coalition are some of the highest points in the year in terms of how they impact you both personally and professionally. And so I always get really excited for those.
Yeah, I think it'll help serve as an icebreaker. People can let their guard down, and I think that's where a lot of the value from the entire event comes from, just being open and honest and vulnerable. And the goal is with this to allow some people the opportunity to let their guard down and tell some possible horror stories and get comfortable with everyone around them.
It's true. I like it. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. We'll have everything in the show notes as always. And actually, I haven't even told you this. Next year, I've got a kind of a geographical way we're doing all of our guests for the Curious Builder. I'm going to start in the Northeast. So I'm going to have you and Nick on. I've never had you or Nick on the podcast for Monday episodes.
Oh, really? We'll have to do it. We'll have to do it.
I know.
Right.
Get to your meeting. Appreciate it. I'll stay on. I got to do some stuff for Ian. So
cool. Thank
out.
you. I appreciate
See you,
it.
buddy.
See you.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth. And with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online. And thanks again for tuning in.